Well, this is episode 20. Woo!
Wow.
Yay.
2 decades worth of episodes.
Never would have thought
Can
we
you
would reach
believe
this
we
point.
made it? Can you believe 20 years of Symposium? What a ride.
Imagine if we had done that, we probably would have some sort of following on YouTube.
I would sure
Like,
hope so.
this group that puts out one video a year, and it's like just some like random stuff, and they're just like, these guys, at least they're consistent.
We've been talking since the 5th grade, and somehow we've got more to say. Beat kicks and faster rhythm. Inflation's high, the game's too steep. Stream wars rage while we lose sleep. Big tech's wild, the Fed's a mess, but let's start a party, I guess. Symposium, where tangents thrive. Old friends talking, the takes collide. Symposium, no wrong or right, just good conversation deep into the night. Yeah, we're still talking.
All right, well, episode 20. We can, I don't know if everyone brought a story with them or that they want to go through, or if we want to talk about Iran. I feel like enough has been said about Iran. Also, the war ended today. I don't know if you saw that. DJT posted truthed this morning that it's all good and we have a 5-day pause on the bombs.
So it's a hiatus.
Well, he says that we're having great negotiations, but then they came out and said that they're not negotiating.
I heard
So that was
as
kind of
well.
awkward. And then the reporter said, I was watching.
Who are you talking
He's getting
to?
on the plane. Yeah, he's like, we're having high level, conversation with the leader. And they're like, so when you say the leader, you mean the supreme leader? He's like, no, not the supreme leader. And so they're like, well, who are you talking to? The very highest level guy. But we killed all the high level guys. But we know that this guy is a high level guy. He's a 3rd tier guy, he said. So we killed all the 1st tier guys. We killed all the 2nd tier guys. Somewhere down in the 3rd tier, there's this guy that's still around, and that's who we're talking to.
It's kind of a cluster. I
That
mean,
was
there's no
kinda
other
word
way
for
to
word.
explain it. It's just, I think it's
So you can't
the
even keep up
market
with it.
impact on what he's trying to like time. The timing is just so obvious on literally everything that happens. Like the major strikes on like infrastructure, something that's like Friday after market close, and then he literally put out the Truth Social, I think 5 minutes before the bell opened today. There's also some sketchy volume that was happening like right before his announcement, so that was fun to see. So it's just, literally everything he's doing is trying to calm markets, which I guess that's part of his prerogative, or part of his goals is just keep that level, not tank it.
I don't know. You can't even talk about it because you can't keep up with it. Like, hopefully we're not all being enlisted this time next week.
I think we're too old to be drafted.
You've got
what
a
is the
child now.
age?
You're like tier F.
I'm
Austin.
super safe.
Yeah.
Is that the incentive to have children? That's how he's going to convince everybody to have kids. Take everybody to war.
Isn't the first tranche 18 to 24, I think, is the first draftees, and then
I don't know.
up from there. So you guys have your card, right?
I registered.
Well, you're supposed to keep your draft card.
I don't know if I have my draft card on me, but
It says
Sam
keep
going
this
to
card.
get his.
Which one are you more likely to save? Your draft card or your vaccination status card?
Vaccination status. I love that
God,
thing.
nothing pissed me off more than that.
Than your draft card?
No.
It's this draft.
Yeah, I think
Damn it.
it's going to be twisted. Yeah, it's going to be clipped. And no, I'll never forget one time. The only time that I ever had to show a Vax card to get into a bar in Chicago, I was lit. Anyway, so I know, Sam, you nodded and said you brought a story. Matthew and Justin, do you have stories as well?
I have a brief story, but I'm not sure it'll drive much conversation. It was just an interesting tidbit that I kind of read, but I don't have like a full discussion.
I
I have
dove
plenty of
into
things we
the
could talk about.
rising unemployment rate with new grads a little bit, but a lot of it is common sense, or at least as I was reading, I was like, yeah. But then I guess the downstream repercussions I think are less talked about. So if we want to, eventually go that way, we can maybe talk about that a little bit.
Sounds nice. Sam, where do you think your story fits in the order that you want to talk about these?
I had a
things?
show and tell.
Okay. Do you want to do that last or first? Or...
I'll go first.
All right. We're going to start off with Dick's show and tell. This is the R-rated part of the show. So what do you have for us, Dick?
Well, I'm probably late to the game here, but I recently discovered large language models.
Continue.
What?
For coding specifically, right? Such as cursor.ai is the one that I've been using. So it's like ChatGPT, except it will create computer code for you so you can create your own projects. Austin, I know you've used this with your Steal Your and Grandma's Memories application. Justin, I know that you've used it with programs in the past. Matt, I'd be surprised if you have, but I'd be curious to know, have you used any coding AI?
I tried my hand at Replit the other week.
How'd you like it?
I have the free version, so it's a little slow. You only get like 2 or 3 like prompts until it's like, you have to wait 24 hours. Do it again. But overall,
it's like the new Facebook thing where it's like, oh, you can't build on your farm anymore. Try again tomorrow.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, you tried your password too many times. Try back in an hour. But it was cool. I didn't really do a ton with it. From what I could tell, it was like, I liked it.
Good.
But go ahead, Sam.
That's cool. I'm happy to know that you've used it. Yeah, shocking. I guess I'm late to the game though. Wait, what'd you say, Austin?
I said it's maybe shocking that Matthew said what he just said.
My toe in. All right, if I'll be honest, I was trying to make like a March Madness type app for my own because I do a lot of brackets, and I have one for all my college friends that I set up. I was like, it'd be nice if I could just like make one that's just ours that we could have every year, so I don't have to use ESPN's. So I was working on it, but honestly, I went on a trip and then I didn't get to finishing it. So it's still work in progress. Maybe I'll have it for next year.
Always next year.
Yeah.
Well, I've been really blown away. I've just been using it personally on a couple of different projects. One is too personal for me to share with the internet, but I'll describe it and then I'll go into my show and tell, which is just a 1 day long project that I did today. The personal one has nothing to do with, but
yeah, Dick, you have something to say?
No, so I've always journaled here and there, right? And sometimes it's in a notebook, sometimes I'm typing on a computer, but I've had like 7 or 8 different journals that just kind of get tossed about. And I've always wanted all of my journals to be in one space so that I could like search them or do analysis on them. And I decided to get high-res scans of all of the pages of my journals that I have, going back to 2015 is the earliest that I could find. So I have about a decade worth of journals. And I wanted to get those handwritten journals and convert them into digital text. And so this is what sort of kicked off this project, which lasted about 2 weeks. And initially, I was just trying to use OCR programs, which is like computer vision. I don't know what OCR stands for. Do you guys know?
Oh, I do, but I can't remember. Keep going.
So I wanted to convert my really shitty handwriting into digital text. And so I was able to I had like 300 scans, like PDF scans that I wanted to bulk upload and then get text back. And I was able to use Google Cloud Vision to do this. And that's how I stumbled upon Cursor. I'm using ChatGPT. What's the best way to do this? And it's suggesting using different programming systems. And so I'm using ChatGPT to write my own Python scripts to send these PDFs to Google's OCR service, right? And I just send bing, 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 300 of them to Google, and then I get raw text back, and it's in super shitty condition. Like the L's look like ones to the computer vision, and the formatting's all off, and the words are bad because my handwriting's terrible. So then I wanted to take that output from the computer vision and pair it with ChatGPT, another large language model, to fill in the gaps conceptually, because ChatGPT knows that if I'm saying really, but it's REL1Y, Chat knows that I'm trying to say really, not saying REL1Y. So it can then repair my scanned vision of my journals and create actually a whole text. So that was segment 1 of this project. And then I wanted to...
Was it struggling because you can't spell?
It was struggling because I can't spell, but also because my handwriting is just atrocious. Like, I wasn't writing these to be analyzed or to be scanned. And sometimes I write in all caps, sometimes I write in cursive, sometimes I write in mixed caps where there's like small and large letters. Like,
That's a crazy move.
Very slanty. Yeah. I don't write on the lines. It's if I had like nice girl handwriting, I think this project would have been much, much simpler. But for me, it was kind of a big undertaking to get my chicken scratch into actual data.
Right,
And
like a serial killer.
Yeah,
I was literally
is
going to
kinda
say,
se-
he sounds like a serial killer.
But I was successful, and I was able to get 326 journals into pretty much flawless text format on my computer. And I was like, yay, I have it all in one spot. But then my next goal was to write a program that took the raw text of each one of those journals and fed it into a ChatGPT, and with a very strict prompt that it's called the taxonomy, which basically says I want different buckets of my life to be categorized based off of each one of these prompts. So the first one is domain. Like, is this just daily life organization? Is that what I'm journaling about? Is it relationships? Is it health? Is it finances? Like large topics about my life. And then underneath that, I had psychological state and emotional state and tone, and all of these different categorizations that I built a really strict prompt that fed it the text, and then it spit out basically a list JSON file that said for each entry, here's exactly what kind of information is contained within that entry. So that was a whole big undertaking to get that done. But through the use of Cursor, these AI programming situations, I was able to write some Python code that I ran locally on my machine that pinged the OpenAI API and basically made 326 different chats, and spat out raw data that I was then able to process using this. This isn't like super complex programming, but for somebody like me who knows very rudimentary Python, like enough to understand what's happening, but this would have taken me at least 2 years to be able to build something like this, like 24 months ago. And it took me probably 2 days to get to this point. So an incredible amount of like time savings and capability increase, because up to this point, analyzing all of my journals would have been completely impossible. Like going through all of those pages, understanding what's in all of them. I'm not going to read them all and like manually categorize them and think for myself. But now I've got a system that basically just spits out all of this data. So then I took that and I basically did some regression and some statistical analysis on it to say, all right, here's all of the data. Here's how I categorized it all. Now, based off of the actual words in the journals. So how we've talked a little bit about tokens and tokenizing your text through ChatGPT, where it basically just predicts the next word, right? So what I did was I converted every single one of those raw entries into a vector, basically. I said, based off of all the words in here, tokenize it, turn it into a number based off of the content within it. And then I'm able to do analysis off that number to pair similar journal entries next to each other. So if I'm writing about similar topics, they'll be next to each other because the vector, the number distillation of that journal is similar to another one. And then I was able to map that out and do some statistical regression analysis to say, do some k-means analysis to say that, okay, there's approximately 6 different clusters of things that you talk about. And here it is visually mapped on a screen. So then I built a whole web application to visually interact with my journal data that plotted all of my journals on a scatter plot and color coded them. And up here is where I'm talking about travel stuff. Here is logistical things. Here's relationship things. Here's work things. Here's music things. Here's creative things. And all of them are color coded and sort of next to each other. And then it became, this is the end of this project, but it became a tool for me to analyze, okay, when I'm talking about work, I'm generally in an anxious state. And that is usually followed by a few journals that is like life logistics. All right, I need to get my shit together, see what I need to do, make a list. And then that is usually followed by like an exploration stage. And like, then I'm, after I get my shit together. So I can now map the trajectory of my life through my journals as I move through different emotional states and different domains in my life that I'm using now to interpret and catch myself in those phases of my life. Like as I'm journaling, this live updates, it looks like, okay, you're in this phase and this sort of, the predictive model says this is sort of where you're going. And then you can look at behavior change and things like that. It was a wild journey that I went down to go from my chicken scratch into like actual statistical analysis of my own psyche and to see it like visually plotted and being able to like dive into the depths of all of these journals was just really, really fascinating.
I have a lot of questions, so I'll start. Very good show and tell. Well done, Dick.
There's no show.
I've got a show part.
Tell.
I've got a show part that's shorter that'll come up after this.
We don't need to see that short part.
That's short. Yeah, I've got a show part that's shorter. God, I hope so. All right. So, first question: what was your total cost of like? How much did you spend on AI to
$50.
accomplish this?
I spent
$50.
$20 on a monthly ChatGPT subscription, $20 on a monthly Cursor subscription, and I put $10 into my OpenAI API funding allowance, which of that I've only used $4. So I guess $44.
Did Cursor take care of interactions with the cloud pricing? You said you used
Cloud Vision, Google Cloud Vision.
Yeah, Cloud Vision.
That was free. I just had to set up API for it. Yeah.
What did you use to do the vectorizing?
It's called embeddings, and it's yeah.
But like, did you use a third party?
Nope.
That like you connected into.
Oh yes. It's an open AI model similar to ChatGPT 5. It's called embeddings large, I think. And it converts things into vectors, basically.
My last thing, just think about how crazy it is what you just said and what you went through right there. Like how you would have never been able to accomplish. This is the realization I had a while ago. You would have never been able to accomplish any of that stuff without AI existing. And that is why I firmly still believe that I'm a fool, but all of us are, because think about how valuable that, like what you just said could be to a company, not in the way that you just like did it because they don't need to get their memories sorted out or whatever, but like that concept of what you just did is, I think, like crazy powerful in that like us that don't have any knowledge of coding in the past, hardly at all, are capable of doing something like that. And that's we haven't even like scratched the surface of the of really any company outside of tech understanding or using this stuff at all. I think we're so far away from actual AI adoption, which is why I'm curious about Justin's story around unemployment. But I just think you could go take that and you like not the exact application, but that same concept of what you just did, and you could deploy that into all sorts of companies around like all sorts of problem statements.
Yeah, it does still take a baseline level of understanding and curiosity to be able to accomplish it. because you still need to learn a lot because you still have to wrangle the AIs into building something actually worthwhile, because that's a trap that I fell down a few times, where I'd generate some code, have it debug it, and it would find some other bug, and then I would spend 15 minutes down a rabbit hole like trying to fix something for some feature that I ended up not even wanting in the first place, but it like put in there. Learning how to, I used chat and cursor side by side pretty extensively, where I would be using ChatGPT for the planning and for prompt generation for cursor. Like, here's exactly what I want to do. ChatGPT, make me a prompt
There you
to
go,
give to
Dick.
cursor. Yeah.
There
And
you
then
go.
give
Thinking with your
that
noggin.
prompt to cursor. Basically, it's a peculiar spot that we humans have found ourselves in, because I'm just like copy, paste, like going back and forth and like checking to make sure my two AI agents are like doing what I want to have done. But yeah, it was like pretty mentally taxing, and still took a long time. Like, I probably spent about 30 hours on it, and it's 2 gigabytes worth of scripts and like test
And this
outputs
is all
and
hosted, I think, because so this is like locally hosted on your.
Yeah, like Cursor, I built a virtual environment and gave it access to my file system. So all the Cursor's doing is writing Python text scripts into a folder on my computer. And then I used, it's called Streamlit, which is a way to host applications, basically, basic applications on my web browser.
Yeah. The difference with Replit is that it is like rendering it and hosting it in real time. So it is the host also.
Versus like running the code, testing it, looking what happened.
If you set it up to be, Austin, I've got it on my setup now. It's not the host, but it's making changes to a live environment that's not in Replit. So
That's cool.
Yeah, so you get, well, Sam's not, but that fantasy football website for this upcoming season, I have it tied directly into my GitHub account. So Replete makes changes. When I accept those changes, that gets pushed up into basically the branch that is displaying the website, and then Render, the site that's actually hosting the website's reading from that branch on all the time. And so whenever I make the change from like vanilla to chocolate, it'll automatically pick it up. And the next time you refresh, you'll see chocolate, right? So that's like kind of a neat way where you take it out of Replete, because Replete, has hosting fees that you might not like. You can lower those hosting fees by just connecting your GitHub account and then having it being hosted somewhere else. So I thought that was a neat little. I don't think maybe a lot of people don't use it like that, or like that would be where Sam brought up the point of, or no, Austin, you did, about people not being able to code before, but now having a ton of agency when it comes to making these things. The one advantage, because I think coders are losing their advantage, but the one advantage they do have is kind of maybe next level connections like that. Thinking of like different ways that like the bigger picture is harder to understand if you don't have a background in this stuff. And then for like what Sam had, where he lost time chasing down a bug that was irrelevant, that's where coders probably still have an edge, at least in efficiency. I think efficiency is probably the key word when it comes to what coders are good at now, is just being really efficient with these things compared to less code-based individuals.
Yeah, I mean, just from the fact of like you have to look up so much stuff and like figure out what it means, because like most of these are terms that I've never heard. Does GitHub Copilot work at all well compared to like Replit? Like, why won't you can you use GitHub Copilot in the same way to modify from vanilla to chocolate?
Yeah, you could. It's just not as good. Like, I've been using Claude as the main coding, and then, regular like chat Copilot, and it's night and day, honestly. And that's why Claude is actually more of a premium service than Copilot is. So I find I use Claude every day. I don't mess with Copilot. Copilot doesn't really see the big picture as well.
Well, that was great. That was a wonderful show and tell.
Quickly before I'm done,
Do you want to do the show part?
I do have
I see the show. And Matthew's gonna display his bracket website.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this
is your house.
This is a house.
This is a house.
A house. that I am doing some landscape planning for. Okay. And I want to use ChatGPT to, my overall big picture vision is, here's all of the plants that I have. Which one should I keep? How can I revamp these flower beds? What should I get rid of? What are some different ideas, basically? And I need some help trying to figure that out. Okay. So what I decided to do was to take measurements of the house and all of the flower beds, etc. And, well, here, let me just show you. So I built this today. This was just today. And this is a HTML website that's hosted on my computer that I can click here. It's got the garage with the footprint. It shows all of the different zones that I've got. This is a patio. Here's an existing bed, another existing bed. I put.
Did you
this
tell
is
it? Did
a cherry tree?
explain like what you like? Explaining like the interaction of this. Did you upload a picture and it figured out all these zones, or you told it all these, or?
So I built this. I don't know if I can show it on my screen. I built, basically, I took some graph paper, and I knew the lot was 43 feet by 120 feet. So I drew a 43 by 120 square. I measured the distance from the house to the street. It's 19 feet. So then basically what I did was created, for all of the different points of all of the polygons you see here, I said, this is 0.00, and this point is 0.1625 or something. And then I did that for all of the points and put that into a JSON file so that I could then render that digitally. So it just has to plot all of the points and know that it's a polygon and label it as a thing. So let me show you my window or screen, this one. So here is what cursor looks like.
I've heard very good things about Cursor. I've actually never gotten my hands on it though.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. So here's this is what I gave to Cursor. Was I built this JSON file, which here's my coordinates 00, 43, 0, 43, 120. So this basically builds out a square of my of the footprint of the location that I'm doing this landscape planning for. And then here's the footprint of the house. So that's what these points are. So I basically went through this for each item. The detached garage, here are the points. And this is all from that 00 bottom left. So this is 15 over 93 up. So this gave me the base layer. And then I built, here's like an example of a prompt. I'll go to one of the first ones here.
This looks a lot like Replete.
Does it?
But this looks local. So the local portion of this is very interesting.
Yeah, so I said we're moving from an as-is capture into a structured landscape planning context. We have a working site planner, HTML plus JSON, base geometry is complete, existing features are partially captured. We're not capturing plants yet. Goal, add a planning layer that enforces zones, environmental constraints, bed structure, and plant design. So I wanted to say that this area has full sun, this area has partial sun, this area is high visibility and needs to be high maintenance and really pretty. So yeah, basically, I want to see what my very first chat was. And so it's pretty iterative. Like you basically just give it prompts and then it'll do a bunch of coding and tell you what it did. So I said, build a Python script that converts a structured landscaping JSON file. That's what I built into a valid GeoJSON feature collection. Input format JSON. And for listeners who don't know, that's basically just a list format. It contains polygons, coordinates are in feet, requirements, output must be valid JSON, geometry rules, closed shape. So I said everything has to be closed. So, and then it says, okay, exploring workspace for JSON, creating, converting structured landscape into JSON, adjusting fence handling. We'll use multi-line string for multiple segments, blah, 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 blah. I don't understand a lot of this stuff that it ends up doing, but it builds really large, Python scripts and HTML pages. Like this is the HTML. If you can see this little cursor, like it's a lot of lines here. It's like 5,000 lines to run this little program, 5,000 lines of code. For me, this is super valuable. Like these are the full sun areas. These are partial sun areas. And if I click here, it's got notes that this is the entry walk zone. It's got high visibility and high maintenance. Its formal structure should be symmetrical, and all of this gets put back into that same JSON format. Sorry, I'm jumping around, but you can see I've got downspouts here, so it knows where a lot of water is. I know where the spigots are on the house. And this list format, the reason why I'm doing all of this is this list format I can then feed back to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT now has the context of the entire landscape situation to be able to say, here are some plants that would thrive in this area and look good in this area, and here's exactly like in your space where they will be planted. So this is basically just what I've gotten so far is just the backbone of what I can then use AI to help build a full landscaping plan to make a beautiful, beautiful place for the summer.
You're building a techno garden.
Techno garden.
One might call it Silicon Valley.
Nice.
God.
That's
Well,
good,
now what
man.
I want you to do is use Replit to create a web application where you can upload images like that top-down image and other side images and whatnot, and then it'll run this thing and create all of this as you upload that image. Is step 1. Step 2, it gives you your picture there that's behind this code. And then step 3, you can adjust, you can, live edit it, assign the sun zones, whatever you want to do to it, and then it'll spit out what your
Oh my gosh, it has an
And I've got an opacity
What
scale.
is a JSON file?
It's just a
It's like a type of file.
So
Yeah,
it looks
JSON's
like this.
key values.
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
basically a
Where
list.
equals this.
Yeah.
So it's just a certain format.
Yeah, so it says for the house object, and then indent, here are the points, and then indent, and here are all of the points that surround the house that shows it the outline. And then down here it
And-
says for the garage, here are the points, and then it lists the points. And it just keeps doing that. So it's
So
sort
did
of a
you let-
hierarchical list.
Geometry.
Did you put a picture of the graph paper in and then that computed all of the points, or you like physically typed in all the points?
Yeah, where did the graph paper come into play here?
The graph paper I just put in for my own usage, but it is to scale. And it's based off of real world scaling. So this point, and I've got a little calibrate background where I'll screw it up just to show you guys, but I just say that it's asking for what the point value is for the first and then the Y. And then if I go over here, 6 and then 6, and it'll like, see, it made it like super tiny down there. But if I want to calibrate again, then I would come in here and click this point and say that is 0.00 because it's the bottom left. And then I'll point at the top right, and this is X43 and Y120, and then that sets it back up to the size of the property. So it's, here I can click this utility. This is the north hose spigot. Right here is the AC unit. This is a shrub. This is a arborvitae. This down here in the bottom right is a cherry tree with a diameter of 10 feet. So,
But see, you're in so like think about this. You're in the real estate business. Like this software probably exists somewhere out there where you map every like item on a property and property lines. And I mean, I've gone in like the county like property has, you can like zoom in and see all this stuff. Like that was a software at some point that probably costs a lot of money. You can just make it yourself in a
Yeah.
day.
I considered for about a half a second trying to find a purpose-built application to accomplish my goal. But because it's so specific and I want it to work how I want it to work, I know I would be unsatisfied with it. And it was just easier for me to build the whole thing and to have the amount of layers that I have where I can define exactly where all the zones are and define this is a sidewalk right here. Like I was able to build the sidewalk in, and there's just nothing purpose built that's going to just do this for me automatically.
And that's what every company is probably going to end up. That's where like software will evolve to. That's why all the software stocks have been getting walloped lately, is because
SaaS is dead.
you can build your own, and you can do it exactly how you want in the custom way that you want, and everybody's enabled to do it now.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty fun show and tell. This literally took me maybe 7 hours to do, and I am probably 3 hours away from having like a professional grade landscape plan that is like, specific to the zone that I live in, native plants. It'll have like height. Yeah, we have to have high, medium, and low plants. You want to have perennials and annuals, colors. They need to be in specific sun zones. So that's all data that I can import. Like there are plant databases that will give me all of that information, and I can match that to the specific property that I've built out here. It's very cool.
Now that you're into this, your fiance will never see you again because you're just going to be addicted to your computer now.
I'd be lying if I said it didn't come up. She tentatively asked me one night. She's like, "So what are you doing after this?" Because she was in the kitchen like making something. I was like, "I don't know why." She was like, are you gonna get like sucked into something?" Because it was like 7 days straight that I was up until like 1 a.m. Like, no, cursor, do it like this. Yeah, it is. It's very addicting.
Yep.
It's interesting to see a creative non-coding based mind getting their hands on stuff like this, because it really just explodes your creativity, and you don't have to be a coder now. Now it's more of let me put my idea on paper and see what needs to be done to make it come to fruition, and it's at your fingertips instead of locked behind another worker coming to make your website or something like that. So it's really exciting to see this. I do wonder what else we're going to get in the coming years of just people who had no background coming in and making softwares. Granted, there's probably 10,000 ways to hack this now. If this were to go live immediately, like there's other principles you probably miss out on, but it's very cool to see this happen.
I'm moving away from like, how can I commercialize this? I think anybody can probably build exactly what I did and probably do it a little bit better because they have the same tools that I do. But this is genuine value to me, just for me. Like, I don't care that I'm not selling this. This is genuinely a valuable product for me to use, and the ability for me to continuously make all of the genuinely valuable products that I need for my life. Very cool to me. Very cool. Thank you for coming to my
You'll
show
have to
and tell.
keep us posted on what the plant plan is. It's almost planting time. It's warming up.
Planning to do some major landscaping as well, so that was very topical.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of ripping out and putting rocks down, so less intense than that. Full house, but
Well, maybe chat can tell you what kind of rock to use.
well, I was gonna ask Sam here or Dick here. I think he ordered too much dirt one time. How many cubic yards of dirt did you order on accident?
I ordered 1 yard of dirt.
That was 1 yard?
Yeah, 1 yard of dirt is a surprisingly massive
lot of
amount of dirt.
Crap. That's like sometimes
I
the minimum
ordered-
you can order, though.
You can get a half a yard. I ordered when I was building our back patio almost 3 years ago. I needed rock for like a base layer and ordered rock and also ordered too much. And then I had to go find a different, and nobody would come get the rock. Like the place that delivered it wouldn't come get it. I found some like other landscapers in the neighborhood and was like, "Will you take this rock?" They didn't want the rock. So I went and found this other company, this other guy that has a rock place. And I was like, look, buddy, I'm in a bind. I will pay you to bring that dump truck to my house. I will shovel the rock into your dump truck and I will pay you, and you can have the rock and put it in this rock pile where you have the same rock. And he's like, well, how much will you pay me? And I was like, I'll give you like $50. Like, just, it's literally a half a mile away, not even a quarter mile. Come to my house. Let me load this rock. And thank God he did, because I needed to get rid of it. But so I paid to have the rock delivered, and then I also paid to have it taken away. So then he could resell it
now
to
I'm
someone
kind of
else.
scared about this rock I have to order, of like how much I need here.
Hard to get rid of rock.
Well, the problem I had was I had nowhere to like put it, because I only could go up so high because I had to do the next layer and then get the pavers. So I couldn't just add more.
You could have dug a big
Was it
hole.
like a lot of pebbles?
You could just
like-
pile more up.
How big were these rocks? We're talking like little, like,
And it was like, I think it was like, I don't remember, 1/2 inch something.
have you ever seen the Shawshank Redemption?
Wait, with a
missed out.
movie?
Yeah,
You haven't
You
seen
have
the
not
movie,
seen it?
Austin?
you're
No.
missing out. That's like
Wow, we
one of
should
my
just
favorite
have a
movies.
That's
podcast
surprising.
where you watch
One of
the
my
movie.
favorites too.
Because he's missing out on a big opportunity. He could have done a little Andy Dufresne action around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Just
It's
shake
like,
it out his pants at
shake it
people's
out.
Driveways. One
Man,
handful
Austin's
at a
going on a
time.
lot of walks.
This neighborhood's gotten a lot dustier recently.
Poor
Sorry, you
Austin
don't get the
doesn't
reference, Austin, but
I guess I'll have to watch the
now you have
movie.
to watch it.
All right. Justin, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I dove into, I don't even know how we did this. I don't know if I'm going to share anything like that, but the article dove into what was happening with the unemployment rates that rose. I think it was like 4% over the last year in terms of undergrad or new graduates unable to find entry-level jobs. You know, I was asking questions alongside a Gemini chat to this article, and the two largest areas were basic white collar accounting, marketing, and then very basic software engineering. And I think, you know, all of us on this podcast, that doesn't really surprise us, because those are jobs that are very automatable, and a lot of companies are simply not hiring entry-level positions anymore because the AIs are taking care of this. So that's when, you know, I said earlier in the chat, or earlier on this, I said, that's kind of common knowledge, or common sense, it kind of feels like. So instead, I kind of dove down another angle of, okay, well, this is happening, whether we like it or not. People are having a harder time finding jobs, and frankly, you know, larger parts of the population are now falling into this category. What are the ramifications that this is going to have on society in general, you know, as more people become unemployed straight out of college? Because I thought that was less talked about. And some of the interesting things, I think, that when I was kind of researching it, are family-oriented kind of like downstream effects, right? So a lot of these individuals come, they don't find a job. A lot of them end up moving back with their parents. That's one thing that was, you know, a lot of people are talking about, oh, it's too expensive to live, and, you know, we move back with our parents. Well, one reason that's not talked about as much is that there's just simply not the same amount of jobs available either. A lot of people are struggling to find a job, so the only logical solution is to move back in with your parents until you find a solution or find a job and stuff like that. Another one up is obviously home ownership. That's obviously been a major struggle. A lot of people say the price, but again, it's a large part of the population that simply does not have a job, so you literally cannot afford to buy a home, and therefore, you know, you see a lot of complaints about home ownership when it's not just price. It's like literally the more basic than that. It's like people cannot find jobs coming out of college. And then obviously another cascading side effect is family creation, right? People are not starting families, getting married, because they don't have any sort of stability when it comes to an entry-level job to at least start these things. And so one small thing where a new graduate's just looking for a job has this cascading effect that people don't really think about. And as more people come and say, oh, they're just being lazy and they can't, you know, they're not buying homes. Well, actually, it's 3 steps before the home buying process that they can't even succeed. You know, they can't find a job with their degrees. So, you know, a lot of people will look at, maybe they didn't get a degree that's in demand. Well, entering college, 4 years ago, being an accountant or a software engineer was absolutely still a major demand. So that was, I mean, you could argue that maybe that was the beginning of ChatGPT, but that really wasn't into effect the way we see it nowadays. So I'm curious what the pivot is going to be for graduates, even in, let's say, it's your junior year and you're starting to see these patterns emerge. Like, are we going to see a massive migration away from stuff like accounting, or marketing was another one that was hit really bad? And new marketing hires. Like, do we think that there's going to be a shift away from these professions in general? And then in 10 years, this was also one other thing I want to bring up. They said in 10 years, middle managers or like senior level positions are not going to be filled with, 30-year-olds or anything like that, because they're not being hired right now. So you're not going to have a middle manager type of position, because you don't have the experience, because you were never hired for the entry position to even build up from. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that there's going to be a transitional period where these professions just stop becoming popular? Like, once very popular professions, people are just going to stay away from, and I don't know where they're going to go. I mean, it talked about blue collar a little bit, but what do you guys think?
I think they're going to start doing exactly what Sam spent his entire day-to-day doing. You're going to go turn these tools on and start building. I mean, I sent you guys this thing. Where is it? A couple days ago that said, January there were 532,000 new business applications in the U.S., up 37% from last year, nearly matching pandemic peak July 2020. Number of people who list themselves as founders on LinkedIn is up by 69% from a year ago. I don't know where those were sourced from, but I mean, if any of that's even partly true, I mean, that's what I would do if I was in those shoes, is I would be trying to use these tools to create something of value. You got to find something that ultimately people are willing to buy, or a way that it can make money. I'm not convinced still that the slowdown is not just economic in nature in hiring of these people. Similar to, it's hard to get a job in 2008 coming right out of college. I'm not convinced that that the AI adoption that I have seen it is actually playing a major factor in any of this yet. And that potentially, yes, we are finding that we're able to do more with less, but I just don't see it replacing people at the vast majority of companies yet. So I think that we're in this situation where we had this maybe big overhiring of people. We've now, the economy has taken a beat for a second. People are starting to have this rationalization of, do we need 12 people in this department, or could we get by with 10? So when 2 leave, we're going to not hire those other 2. And yeah, maybe we can augment and help some of that with these AI tools a little bit. But I think that there's still a lot of it that is that, in that it's just the economy is not burning on all cylinders right now. And we're going to see where that goes over the next probably 2 years. But I think AI is this hidden, AI is being used as a bit of a scapegoat right now.
I'd be curious but do you guys think marketing teams are really the way they used to be, though? Do you really need a graphic designer to come in and do the work that they used to do 2 years ago? I feel like there's some things that are just, unless you just don't use it, you just refuse to pick it up and even try. There's just some professions that are just dead, absolutely dead right now.
I think smaller.
Matt,
I was just gonna say, it's kind of now, graphic designers, right? They're good at using the Adobe tools that they have, right? I think the marketing departments will probably become smaller, and it'll be one guy who knows how to use whatever AI tool to do all the same work, right? You just don't need 8 people that know how to use Adobe whatever and Photoshop. You just need one guy who can use this nice AI tool that can make all this stuff. Because if you're a company at the end of the day, you don't want to have your random people on your company just like doing it and figuring it out on the fly. You want to hire somebody who at least knows how to do it, how to use these tools to create it. So you'll probably hire like one guy. At least that's how I imagine it. I don't know if you were to say something different, Sam.
No, I think you're right, but I think in principle, that's all true. That these marketing teams don't need to be operating the same way. One guy could be doing the work of 8 guys. But I think in the real world, I think I lean more towards what Austin was saying, that you look at all of our local companies, your plastics companies, your RV manufacturers, like medium cap to small cap to local company mom and pop. These companies are full of people who know exactly how they do their job, and that's how they've always done it. And I think that somewhere in the pipeline, those companies are probably going to start dabbling with building out little tools to make their systems more efficient, but they aren't like Amazon that are suddenly like, okay, we have an AI that can do our entire workflow, because they don't have anybody to build out that AI, to actually build all of the marketing materials and to know how to deal with their clients and to have those relationships. It's all technically possible, but I don't think that the average business is like really taking that super seriously, or taking the risk of, getting rid of their entire workforce and having AI do the job of what 30 people used to do. And then suddenly, if things don't quite go correctly, because honestly, things don't go super smoothly when you're building with AI. Like, it's kind of a course of its own. So is that risk worth just doing things the way that you always have with the clients that are already happy with what you're doing? And so I think maybe eventually down the road, like, this is definitely the direction that we're going. But if you look back at when we were first talking about AI and how quickly it was going to take over people's jobs, I'm starting to realize more and more, even as I use it, that yes, it is exactly what we thought it was, but in the real world, in real companies that are doing, is that a huge like fruit that people are like, oh, I'm going to go into this small town market and like take over this person's like $200,000 per year revenue? Probably not. So they're probably just going to continue operating the way they are for a while before they're actually beaten out by some other competition that takes it over.
So go ahead.
Mine was just gonna be quick. Hear me out. Smudge AI Consulting LLC.
I'm
Sam,
telling you,
Matt,
like
Austin,
that.
Justin, for small companies or like companies that don't know how to adopt it, we turn it into a consulting
That
business.
truly is like
There's
the
a
best.
massive consulting hole right now. Absolutely massive
Huge.
consulting hole.
That would be like if we were a little bit
More
wiser, I
proficient.
guess, and willing to do that. Like that would be the greatest opportunity of a thing that I believe that we could do today.
Work for
Because-
the devil?
What? You're working for yourself? Are you the devil?
No.
That's what he's saying. Sam is the devil.
I guess like what I was gonna say is I'll happily start Smudge with you tomorrow if you want, Matthew, number 1. Number 2, Jeff Bezos is working on raising as much as $100 billion to buy manufacturing businesses to push them towards automation. So that will be part of how this happens.
We need to start a manufacturing business willing to upgrade
to sell. So you'll start to basically see this stuff because like the economics will change, right? So this local plastic company, that's paying someone to move box A here to there and doesn't know Excel, right? There's opportunity there where maybe if it, I'll even overpay for it a little bit and, buy out this family business because I know I can bring in robotic arms to move that thing and I can develop, more automation. So I think that's how it'll generally kind of work its way through. Now, what I would say with like the spend that we're seeing in AI and how what's kind of concerning, right? Every company, and I'll tell you, even like I think most of the Fortune 500 has not even come close to cracking the code on this. People are using AI and spending money on AI because they have to, because everybody else is, and they're being told you need to have an AI plan and you need to go figure out AI, etc. So they're spending a bunch of money with Claude and OpenAI and bringing in all the tools to see what people like. Like I'm seeing this happen literally every day in my work. But the problem is what the output of that is. We've not even come close to paying for that investment yet. It's a lot of just for fun use. That is ramping up this, like the revenue that we've seen in the valuation of all these AI companies. So if they do not figure out pretty soon, we have to see a much faster monetization of this. Like you have to replace, to justify the valuations of some of these companies, they truly need to be able to replace large swaths of people in the workforce if you're going to just support this, frankly, like bubble that's pent up here. So I think there is a bubble in AI. It's going to pop eventually, but that doesn't mean like the progress isn't going to stop and like these tools will die and all of that. It's just going to be slower and take more time. And like, just like in the internet, like technology companies or companies with more technology or that knew how to use the technology come in and either outcompete or purchase the competition. And then it just, one day we'll look up and everything's run by the robots and the AI, but that's not tomorrow.
I was thinking about, on a greater picture, moving away from our AI consulting company. We'll get back to that eventually. But I was thinking about this the other day with just ownership in general. And if we do think that we're in a precarious place in society, I feel like we say that a lot, but it's an interesting crossroads, I think, because I was actually thinking of what's it called, like planned obsolescence. They've been talking about that for years, but like it's like the same thing as like in shitification. That's the whole idea of like they just make things to break, and people don't own stuff as much. You tend to rent things. We have more renters and homes now and apartments. You rent, like you don't even own physical media anymore. We rent all of it, and people just don't tend to own anything. And the less you own, I'd say as a society, people are less engaged and feel like part of the society. If you're just renting everything, you're just looking. There's a bad guy at the end of the day. If you don't own it, you have someone else to blame for the problem. And the less ownership we have in society, coupled with potentially massive layoffs due to AI, could potentially put us in a very dangerous place. It's just the way I see it.
I had this exact conversation with ChatGPT the other day. I'm not kidding you, like word for word, that I was worried because I'm feeling it too. I'm like, I think that the people that are gonna like not maybe survive is a little dramatic, but like you need to own stuff like in this world. And we have moved so far away from people ever even thinking about being owners in the world that they live in.
You don't want to be a part of society if you don't own any value. It's like owning a part
why
of a
do
company.
you care?
Yeah, you don't care.
You need to be an owner in the American, like if you're talking about the structure and like the strength of America, like we want people to own a piece of America, which means to own land, to own your house, to own your car, to own, be part, invested in stocks and own part of the companies that are here. And I think you're totally right. Like,
I mean, you could look at a company as the perfect example. Is like, sure, you have employees that work for the company, and at the end of the day, they only really care about the company because they're paying them. Like they want the company to do well just so they retain a job. But at the end of the day, they don't really care about the company. The only ones who care about the company are the ones who actually own the company, people who have equity in the company because their well-being is based off the success of that company. Same with the United States. You care about your country the more you own part of the country, own a home. If you own assets within the country, like you want it to do well because that mutually benefits yourself.
I mean, let's do a thought experiment though. Like let's say you don't own anything and like you're in that situation where you're renting you have a lease on your car, you have an apartment you're renting. Like let's say you don't own anything. I mean, what would be the only thing that you would say, I have to defend this country for this? Like let's pretend your family's gone too. Like worst case scenario, you have like no one. I mean, that's probably there's a sizable amount of people. There is no reason, unless you just argue that safety, I guess, would be the only thing that like this country makes me safe.
But you know what happens when you don't own anything? You know what happens when you don't own anything? Communism. Not that I want to throw out the Red Scare, but you definitely move towards a whole like we need socialism / socialism is the ideal, right? Like socialism in theory is a great thing, but people that try for socialism go to communism. It's really what ends up happening, and because that's how we've seen it in practice in societies.
It will create, like, this is the perfect rest. This is exactly where you're going, Matthew, and what you said. So I'm not stealing your point.
No,
but
keep going.
what you're saying is everybody's a renter. You don't feel this feeling of ownership. Then you lose your job to this thing called AI. And by the way, I don't have any piece of the pie in AI. I see all these other people that own things or that they're getting rich off of it. Wow, that sucks. I'm not part of that society. I need to create my own. I need to have an uprising, and that looks and is socialism. And that's where you're right. So like these stories all go together.
Power to the
Justin's saying that
workers.
Justin's saying none of the young people can get jobs, right? And they don't own anything. And all of our wealth is concentrated in people that are 65 and older. And, and it's like the perfect playground for a socialist experiment.
We don't even have to go to socialism either. Like that's the better alternative, honestly. You can look to 1930s Germany and see that there were no jobs available. Their economy was in the shitter, and they looked to a guy who was very nationalistic and wanted to bring back the glory of the country. And we saw where that went. Like, there are different examples of this throughout history where there's a very high unemployment rate, and it goes usually one of those directions.
And we're not
And
there
it won't
yet.
be far off.
Yeah, it's
No, we're not there.
Well,
but
yeah, but in like the next, like if the depending on how the next couple of years go, like that could be the linchpin, if that's the right word, of the next presidential election. Like we could have the biggest uprising in like socialist-esque movements.
social upheaving.
Right.
Upheaval.
Like that could be the like Democrat party's platform. That might be the successful platform of a presidential election.
I
Do I
was
need
thinking
to
about that
remind
for
you guys
28.
why Symposium exists?
Party.
Yeah, it's the political party to like revamp the whole system, right?
Exactly. Well, I was
The
thinking
common
about it for
sense
the
party.
next president. They're going to honestly have to answer for, like, depending on how the next 2 years go. Like, 2 years is everybody's not going to get laid off. But we do know AI is advancing very fast. It might not be 2028, but 2032 could be an election where you're like, one of the parties will, or maybe both, will have to be running on, you're going to have a job. Like, or you're still going to have like a successful career. Like, we're going to
purpose.
put all these regulations in
You
place.
matter.
Yeah, like they're going to have to defend like workers'
Put that in the
rights.
predictions. Matt says 2032.
I mean, it's
People's
already-
uprising.
It's going to be that, or we're going to guarantee some sort of UBI or something. Like you're going to be, I mean, AI is already, this is what I'm most concerned about. AI will be blamed no matter what, even if it's just the fact that the economy goes into a recession and like we have problems. It will be AI's fault, and AI is already less popular than ICE. Like ICE has a higher popularity rating. The Democrat Party, like everything has a higher popularity rating than AI in the perception of the public. And so that's going to be such a like powerful tool for someone to use politically to garner a lot of support.
Well, it's kind of frustrating though, because like this podcast understands how good it is, but to be fair, there are no people coming out and saying what the solution is for people that don't have work then. Like
Yeah,
no
they
one's
can't-
coming
they
out
can't
and
come up
having
with
a
anything.
solution. And it
No.
doesn't matter what party you are. Neither party's coming up with any sort of comeback to that. And so this negative perception is going unfeathered, like leading the way, because there's nothing to stop it. No one's even coming up with a fake solution. Like a lot of politicians are really good at saying things that they don't mean, but they're not even saying that. They're literally saying we're going to be more efficient. Well, efficiency means cutting people, dude. Like that is the opposite of what people want to hear. So it's just kind of frustrating that both parties are so short-sighted in this mindset where they refuse to look at the big picture and say, you know what? It's only a problem because we're not currently thinking of a solution. If we can come up with a solution that isn't like UBI okay, Sam's maybe got one, but like UBI is the laziest way to say it, because that is so many steps off and that reshapes how the entire world functions. So I think that's a little extreme, but there's just no solutions. So that's what's frustrating to me, because demonizing something like this it's unfortunate because it's so cool, but there's no solution. So I totally understand it. Everybody who's scared of it and hates it, I am not yelling at that person at all until people start coming up with answers.
Did you have something, Sam? I wanted to let you get in if you had something.
Yeah, I don't want to derail, so I'll mention it. We can come back to it if you have something. But I just wanted to, I think it was podcast number 12. We talked about the new financial currency system to replace capitalism. Yeah, for our listeners who don't remember, it was more money wasn't necessarily better. You could have either a positive or a negative balance in your credit system, and the goal was to be at zero equilibrium. And I think that this system, we can get back into it, but Matt, if you had other comments, I first wanted to give you the floor.
Okay. Yeah, no, we can definitely jump back to that. Yeah, I just want to say a couple things. I think, well, one thing that you're on what you were saying, Justin, about like no one has a solution for it. I think that's honestly also just part of like it's kind of a short-term issue, but it's really a long-term issue. And like democracy, that's like its biggest flaw is like democracy doesn't plan for the future. Democracy is always planning on the whatever current problem it is. That's why China is always getting ahead of us now, because they're communist and they can plan for decades in the future, right? We don't. So I think that's probably why they don't have a solution yet. And I don't know if there is a necessary solution. Like I'd say like the facsimile that we have to this innovation and change in the workforce is probably the internet, because it kind of changed the way people's jobs work. Like I think, well, not all of this, but Justin, you and I work for internet companies basically. And a lot of people, I mean, I'd say especially like white collar workers mostly work for computer companies, unless you have a more traditional career like a lawyer, real estate, finance, that sort of thing. And so, but I don't like, I'm sure the internet was scary when it started and there were people that realized, oh, this is probably going to take some jobs, but I don't think it was necessarily an inherent threat in that way when people started using it. Like, I think when people think of AI, that's their first thought is like, oh, this is supposed to like take over our lives. So now like we won't need workers. When the internet came, I don't think that was necessarily people's thoughts. They kind of thought it like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then started to realize, oh, it's starting to shift jobs, but it changed jobs.
Yeah. But
it enabled way more jobs. I mean, think about like when YouTube, I heard this somewhere, I don't remember, but like apparently when YouTube came out, they were like, oh, this is going to kill TV, like being an actor or whatever on TV. And like, sure, maybe there's less people in the Hollywood industry today, but there's hundreds of thousands of people now that work on YouTube brands or have their own YouTube brands, or like that is the net benefit has been way bigger. So that's where people will say like that AI could produce is like AI will enable the efficiency that'll enable all of this extra growth.
I just don't know if they're apples to apples.
But it's hard to see because you don't know what it is. You don't know where that growth is going to come from. You don't know how we're going to pay for that growth. You don't know what we're going to do with it.
And that's why I think AI is different and why people are more scared, because it feels like AI is this, we can't even imagine what the future really is, other than like it's supposed to be able to be basically another human being. The internet wasn't that. The internet was this cool thing that we could all connect to. Yeah.
It's not constantly learning. The internet is a collection of like human ideas thrown together. You know, this is now creation is kind of happening in a way that is not human controlled. So it's like internet's an augmentation to a salesman, right? I'll go to our website and, oh, you can order through the website. Here, use this, blah, blah, blah. Now AI is now replacing the entire sales division by saying its own emails. It's doing the marketing. It's obviously an augmentation, but are we missing a word here for greater than an augmentation? It's got the potential to do more.
It can think.
It's a replacement. I don't know.
The internet can't think. An AI can think for itself.
That's true. Maybe that's a simple way to put it. There's no thinking involved, so you have to have a human to create the thinking. now you don't need a human to create thinking. So is the human part the weak link? That's obviously like doomsday type of
That's
thinking.
why we
but-
feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like my job, like my biggest value is problem solving. Like I think a lot of people, especially in white collar internet jobs, is problem solving. They take this issue and solve it. But like if you don't need my brain to do that, then like what value do I bring to this company, you know?
Mhm.
I think what AI can't and will never be able to replace is the part that humans feel. Like it can replace our thinking. It already thinks better than we do. But feeling is a different thing. And I think going forward, careers like nursing or crossing guards or caring for the elderly, like your parents, those are all things that necessitate a human contact with another human. And just the fact that you are human is what makes those things valuable. And I think that that's the one thing that AI will never have. And so I think it does sort of force a reckoning with what does it mean to be human? And does it mean that you are some thinking cog in a system that generates more ideas and more productivity and more money and more economic systems? Or can we leave that to the AI and humans can be more of the thinking, feeling beings that are more in tune with community and with nature and with experience, day-to-day experience? I think that those are all things that are inherently valuable, but are not valued. They're undervalued in modern human systems.
I think that's I think the undervalue statement was huge there, right? I think it's maybe that's what explodes in a post, 50 years from now world. Live concerts, in human interactions in neighborhoods where you're not working 8 hours a day. You're in the community garden.
Golfing
Making a
every day.
stew, enjoying a meal.
So
What
this is the thing that feels so far-fetched for us because, like, yes, I agree that it is not the optimal thing that I have to sit in front of this computer for 8 hours every day and work. Like, that is not probably the best existence. But we do need a sense of purpose, and we've created this system around us that requires us to accumulate money to do things and to live. And so that's where it's hard for me to, like, I understand what you're saying, but I feel like I've been so trained on, like, the system as we know it that I can't imagine this, like, utopia solution.
From the time
because
you
I don't
were
know
in
how we
first
actually
grade.
I don't know how we actually get there. And how do you, like, is there no hierarchy in society then?
Oh, there's always hierarchy.
So, like, what determines
It'll come
the
down
hierarchy?
to biggest.
Well, I mean, the word always, Matt, is kind of I think it's misleading. Like you say there's always a hierarchy. That's, I mean,
it may be our AI overlords, but it's going to be a hierarchy.
No, I mean, I agree there. I'm sure there has been forever, like since the caveman. I'm sure there was some type of hierarchical.
but the word always is just
system,
so deterministic. You can apply it to anything. Like, oh, we've always done it that way. Well, that is one of the lousiest ways to think. The word always is super limiting. And a lot of people use that word a lot. So I don't know. Like,
I agree with you.
yeah, it's so hard to think about a society without a hierarchy, but why not?
I say always because you have to change human nature, which I don't think we can do.
You think
Like,
human nature is hierarchy in a way?
Yes. Throughout entire human history, we've had a hierarchy, and that's because human nature, at the end of the
Because we're
day, I think it's
social.
ingrained in us that people crave power.
You need a leader.
People crave power, and you need someone to lead. And so,
and
and
we've
those
been
have always
selfish.
Wait, let me
those have
challenge.
always been issues that butting up against each other. You need
Let
a
me
leader.
challenge
People also
that, though,
crave
Matt.
power. It's hard to find a good leader because you get all the people who are craving the power, and the ones who don't want the power are usually the best leaders.
But what if they're... So yes, I agree. Human nature for all the time we've been around as human beings. But what has always been around at the same time is the need to survive, right? We've always had some drive and we've had to survive. So we've looked to a hierarchy maybe for protection. Nowadays it's for stability and pay, like, I don't know, to make money to live in a society. But let's pretend that is no longer. We're being taken care of, whatever. We don't have that strain anymore. There's no
It's like, so you're saying there's so much abundance that there's no need. Like, you can have anything you want. There is no limit to what you need, or like to getting what you need to survive. You can have whatever you want. There's unlimited energy, food, everything.
Is that what it would take to eliminate something like human nature, to change human nature, I guess? That's kind of an interesting thought experiment.
I would say no, because I think, look at all the rich people that run for political office. These people basically have as much money as they could ever want. They don't need to do anything else. They could just go live on like an island, but they still want the power.
And even if you take power out of it, like, what about love? Like, everybody wants to find a partner, and I think that there's an evolutionary instinct to like find somebody who is smart, who can navigate situations, who's funny, who can. There are still going to be reasons why some people are more or less desirable, or like higher or lower than other people.
Guess I don't know if I'd put that in hierarchy at that point. If everybody's on the same plane, your own desires on someone else would be.
Sorry to cut you off. In this scenario, is this like an AI is like running the show? Then like we have an AI like God who just like
you wake up
all of our
every
issues.
single day and there's no stress on you on any part of your life. Why would you obey a hierarchy? Right? You can do whatever you want. There might be some like general rules of like don't kill your neighbor, but like there's no need for anything. So why would you listen to someone else? You know,
I don't know. Ask Eve.
Biblical up in here.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Thought she had everything. God said there's one thing she can't do.
But that was an outside source. That was in a hierarchy coming in and
That's true. Good point.
Threatening, or not threatening, but suggesting something that was against nature at that point.
Well, like, who resolves issues then? Because, like, you still, okay, so you have a wife. Like, what if some guy comes and kills your wife or rapes your wife or just steals her? Your wife cheats on you. Like, who resolves the issue? Like, you know, like someone has to be an authority figure that, like,
that's the interesting
resolves the problems
process for me, because then, you've got the AI companies take over the world and nobody has to work anymore. Fine. But who's in charge of those AI companies? Like, it becomes then an issue for me as the worker or for the beneficiary of the AI ruled world. Who has control over those systems and the way that it runs? And so, is it AI judge like we talked about in episode 15? Or is it ChatGPT, our benevolent ruler?
No way. No way.
If it is, then we're talking about different forms of governance where those things can't be owned by 18 board members and they make decisions that impact the rest of humanity. Those are things that need to be outside of the human greed and things like that. But in order to have a situation where humans can relax and not worry about the hierarchy, because in that world, you're still under a hierarchy of whatever system is allowing you to live that way. So you've got to have a lot of trust in that system to not feel oppressed by it.
But what if the system was not human? What if there was no board and AI has gotten to that point where it is self-learning, and so it's one, like, would that put humans as not a subspecies but underneath a species to a point where humans don't even care? Like, they know everything's being managed, because I think that would bother people if there was a board of humans running everything. I think you would have human nature fighting against that. What if human nature is, I'm going totally off the rails here, but like purposely built against hierarchy, but it's always been positioned where it has to rely on hierarchy to survive? Like, what if we did have an overlord of like AI people that just like made a perfect society? I wonder how society would then function.
It'd be like so it's like probably how my dog thinks the world is, because I've given my dog the utopia world. She'll never have a stressful day in her life. She'll never need anything. And she just knows that these people will take care of all the needs that I have. So we're kind of like the dogs. We're kind of pets.
Yeah,
it's kind
just
of
take
like a
cares of us 'cause
reverse.
it's fun.
It's kind of like a reverse evolution. Yeah, it's like, well, this is, I know we're just getting into the what do you call it? Not the
Abstract.
Matrix, but the
Simulation.
simulation, where someone is pulling the strings.
We're already in. I just
We're
explained the
already in
simulation, didn't I?
simulation.
Do we? Oh, where was I going with this? Look, my thing. Oh, I mean, I feel like plenty of movies and books have explained this to us enough. But like at the end of the day, if you put an AI in charge, I think we're all aware that like AI will at the end of the day realize that like human beings are the problem. Like we know that
The
inherently that
negative
like
side.
to govern ourselves is like we're just solving for the next disaster. Like we are our own worst enemies, right? Like inherently we could solve all these issues if we wanted to work together, but we don't. Like we're at each other's throats because we're competitive and we want to be better than the next person. We don't want, like, that's what socialism is. Like, why wouldn't we have like one massive society, one social society among everyone in the world? Like, that would ideally be what's best, but like people want individual what's best for them. They
Yeah,
don't want
at this
to be
point, we're just
equal.
bored. Like, we just make up our own problems because we just need something to do. Like, we've solved housing. Like, okay, not everybody has a house, but we know how to build houses. We know how to keep people safe and how to feed people, but we still go to war in Iran because we just like pick fights with each other.
Yeah, I feel like we're going the opposite direction. Like I don't know, maybe we are saying, "Oh, you might have everything," but I personally think we're going in the wrong direction of like we're depleting all of our resources. What do we do then?
Yeah.
You know,
Where
like
you
we
have
run out of,
nothing.
when we run out of actual resources. I feel like we're moving closer to that than to like abundance and having
Mhm.
everything we
Mhm.
need. So
Fair
I'm
point.
not too
Fair
worried about
point.
that. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
I think the only reason that we're running towards that, like running out of and having to run this race forever is because of inflation. And because we have to constantly play this economic game and beat it and make more oil to make more products to sell to more people to consume to, to play this whole game over and over again. I really do. There's something with that new economic system. Like it's got to change at the
When
root
was
level.
inflation introduced? That's a formal concept. Was
When it
that
went off
like
the
in
gold
Industrial
standard?
Revolution or
Brett-
like older than that?
Bretton Woods. Well, no, it's happened.
Keynes, maybe, like I don't know. Well, probably one of those like economists came up with the theory of it.
It's
sure, like the
existed for
concept.
like the tulip crisis in Amsterdam. There's versions of inflation that have existed as long as monetary systems have existed. All monetary systems follow the same. Like you start with a fixed amount of things and then you quickly realize that that's not enough to do all the things you want to do. So then you start loaning those things to other people so that you can do more things. Now you have a credit-based system. And then once you run out of credit, then you have a fiat-based system where you can just print as much money as you want and you just make as many tulips as you want so that you can still do all of these things, and then it eventually collapses. Like it's the same cycle that has followed for age. In our system, I think it was Bretton Woods in like 1972 that we got off the gold standard and went into a fiat-based currency system. So we've had inflation since then.
What do you guys think about starting a bunch of caretaker
Yes.
agencies or caretaker like
Old
homes,
folks' homes.
luxury old folks homes? Like we're getting an aging population. We're having less kids. It's just gonna be like Japan has like major, like tons of old people. And right now, all the old people have all the money. We started caretaker homes. We all become, it's kind of like what Sam was saying is like, that's the value humans will have is like taking care of other human beings and like that personal stuff, healthcare, like that's where jobs will remain.
So
We
now
could
this
start that
company
up.
has small business consulting in it and caretaker homes.
Yes, we'll teach the old people how AI works so that they can be our consultants around the country.
They'll be able to do, yeah, we could put them on some type of like task. I've been thinking a lot about like what do old, because I've thought about this myself. Like I've seen my grandparents in the old folks homes and stuff, and I'm like, God, I don't want to, like, I want to be kind of like working and doing stuff until the day I die. So like, what can I do? And I was trying to think of a way for Like, how does AI enable like some type of productive task that makes you feel
Training.
worthwhile?
For
it's
old
like
You
people,
want
throwing
to
you
training
turn
data.
old people home into
Yeah.
telemarketing
No,
no.
industries?
They're training homes.
Get them the headsets.
So what we do is have the old people click the captchas 24 hours a day. Not 24, sorry. 4 hours a day. And it helps train the AI
No
moving
sleep.
forward. Like,
Yeah.
click the bus.
That
and then
was
the old people click
how-
the buses.
Didn't I tell you guys that
They're
story?
probably good at that.
That's how they got everything. That's how they got books and like libraries like onto the internet. They use CAPTCHA. Like CAPTCHA was the tool. Like when you would type that in early on in like the 2000s, when you type in, they'd give you like a word and you type it. You were doing the work.
That's like my
for
journals
the
project
companies.
where I was
Yes,
trying to like
you were
scan
basically-
these words and figure out
the
what it
scans
says.
didn't know it, but we didn't know what we were doing.
The
But like,
human
they
was
needed
like, I
someone to
think
type
that
them all
says
in.
expertise.
Wait, so
And that's
you
what we were
would
doing.
read it and you would type it in, and if you thought it was a 0, it would then say, "Oh, this person thinks it's a 0" instead of a circle.
You, me, Sam, Austin, and like 30 other people would get the same one. And depending on what we all put, whatever the highest outcome, if like 29 out of 30 of them wrote, this word says book, then that's what entered into the internet. And that's how they got like so much text and like tons of books onto the internet. It was through CAPTCHA.
That
That's
guy's a
There's this
bullshit.
one guy who
And I
invented
didn't get
it.
paid one dime for all that work.
None.
No.
They used this. We had no idea.
Sam, what hurts more, the captchas you did or the fact that they just have all your information now on the internet?
Yeah, the fact that I uploaded all of my private journals to ChatGPT is very alarming to me. My deepest and darkest secrets I've
Mhm.
given to AI.
Now, the local aspect, you almost got it. You almost, if you had a local DeepSeek install
know.
instead of ChatGPT, you would have been good. In theory, it would all still be there for you. But
Can you help me
yes,
set that up?
we can get you set up. That's fairly easy.
Yeah, I do definitely think that we should invest in old folks' homes. They're also going to need to sell their houses at some point to pay for their stays in these old folks' homes. So that's going to be interesting for the real estate market. They also own a shit ton of small and medium-sized businesses that they're going to want to sell at some point. So there's going to be a huge transfer of wealth that takes place. And then all their kids are going to get their money when they die, and that's going to be
I think
interesting.
the deteriorating human brain through aging is a loss of an incredible resource. And the biggest value play here is chip in the brain of old people, increase cognition, bring them online, send them in
Keep
to
'em
the
going.
simulation.
Yeah.
And you've got
I'll definitely
instant
get the
value
chip.
creation.
I have to just read you this headline. That's a total change in direction, but I simply cannot not read it. Matthew, make sure you're listening to this.
What time?
Fine. I'm in now.
Quadruple amputee cornhole pro charged in passengers shooting death.
No.
Let me say that again. Quadruple amputee cornhole pro charged in passengers shooting death.
What was he, the beanbag?
On March 22nd, around 10:25 p.m. in La Plata, Maryland, Weber, the pro, driving a Tesla SUV, shot 27-year-old so-and-so in the front seat amid a dispute, according to the sheriff. Backseat witnesses fled, captured, called the police. Weber drove off with the body and where he was pronounced dead. Trucked to Virginia. He was arrested in the hospital. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Known from a 2024 ESPN profile for competing as the first quadruple amputee in American Cornhole League history, Weber's firearm skills in his social media videos have raised public questions about the incident.
Is this an Onion story?
No, this is a real story.
How did he shoot someone? Does he have
There's
robotic
videos.
amputated arm?
He is able to like use a little part of it that's left over and load it with his knee. There's a video of him on here doing it, like
I
that
think
he
they
had
use their
posted on
tongue.
social media. And then he's able to just pull a trigger. I mean, I've never seen that. Might be the craziest headline I've ever
He was
seen in my
able to
life.
do that while he was driving?
I guess.
I feel like it'd be hard for me to shoot someone while I'm driving.
Oh my god,
Good key.
that was the wildest headline ever.
That's crazy.
Well, did we get to everything? Matthew didn't go through his story. I don't know if you had one.
Nah, there's probably nothing. I just read an interesting story. It was just like a history story about a little bit of science in there too. Um, when Mount St. Helens exploded back in the 80s, it destroyed Mount St. Helens is in like south of Seattle. And it's a volcano and it exploded in the 80s and killed like 60 people. And a lot of the land was just destroyed, right? Like it's just covered in lava. So like a lot of the ecology in that area was just like dead. It was, and so they were trying to figure out ways, like interesting ways to try and bring back life in the region. And so what they did is the University of California went and dropped a bunch of gophers in there, and their idea was like, oh, these gophers are just going to go in and start like digging up the dirt and everything. And at the bottom, they'll could dig up all like the plant and like fungi and the microbiomes down there, and they'll bring it up to the surface. And they finally just did a study after like 40 years now. And they found out that the areas that dropped those gophers thriving. Like they have all these trees that came back, and the areas they didn't drop them still dead.
Wow.
I was like,
And a
that's just like
massive gopher
wow.
infestation.
it was like their solution was just drop a bunch of gophers.
That's crazy.
None of our rivers are flowing anymore, but the plants are back and
Not the
thriving.
gophers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that was just fascinating. Like,
No,
just
that's-
creative solutions is like this. That's what that's what
Shit.
humans can
My-
do. What'd you say?
I made a beaver joke, and he's like, those are beavers, not gophers.
Well, gophers are generally seen as pests. In this case, they're the opposite. They brought life back. Pretty interesting. Also, my girlfriend had me watch this interesting documentary on dams. If you've ever been interested in dams, like back to your beavers point, if you're interested in dams, there's an interesting Patagonia documentary on YouTube that's free to watch. It's all about
I've
the
seen that.
history of. Oh yeah, it's pretty good,
Wait,
right?
is it a history of beaver dams, right? Not like dam
No,
dams.
human dams, like
Never
power
mind.
dams, like the
Hoover.
yeah, sorry, like the Hoover Dam. I only brought beavers because Justin brought beavers. These are man-made dams. These are the ones that produce power for the United States, and the whole documentary is about the necessity of dams because we kind of just dammed up like all the rivers, and the argument by a lot of people is like we didn't need to dam up all these rivers. We've dammed up a lot of them that were unnecessary, and so like they've gone and blown up dams in the last like couple decades because they realized that they were like duplicative or just like completely unnecessary. And so there's a bit of a push in certain areas of the country to get rid of certain dams. Hoover Dam, obviously not, like that one's a
Interesting.
big one, but the water is drying up from the
Yeah. Lake
from the
Mead.
Colorado River. So yeah,
Maybe
and like
Lake Mead.
connected,
Is that right?
same thing, same water system. And that's part of the concern. When you dam everything up, you prevent water flowing to certain areas, and that affects all
I
the
wonder if
fish
the
living there, that
gophers
affects the
could
people
help
living
with
there.
that situation.
There you go. Open up the
Dig
dams.
up the dams.
Just a plug for an interesting documentary if you guys are interested.
All
I
right.
like that
I have
story.
to go
Thanks,
tend
Matt.
to a crying baby.
Yeah. New
So-
dad. How old is the baby now? 1 month?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Are you sleeping?
We had been sleeping great until last night, so we'll see how tonight goes. It's like roulette. You never know.
Exciting.
What's the most rewarding thing so far?
Russian roulette.
Roulette.
The most rewarding thing? I don't know. She's
I feel like
getting
that
pretty
comes when
good at
they're a
moving
bit
her
older.
neck. She's starting to do some good exercises and moving her neck more and grabbing stuff. And
What's her one
Do
rep
not want to
max?
bring her on a golf trip. He's like,
what's
let's
her
not bring
what?
the baby.
What's her one rep
What'd you
max?
say, Dick? Her 1 month max?
One rep. Like a
One
bench
rep
press,
max. I'm
squat,
probably got to be at least 50.
50 ounces.
She can.
Putting 15s on there.
She's doing the bar.
Oh, just the bar. Hey, it's pretty good. It's 45 pounds. It's pretty good for 6 weeks.
All right, let me close this and then I have to go. But I did have a thing that I wanted to talk about, but it was going to get us way off the rails of like into the simulation, and Justin already took us far enough down that path for one episode, so come back to it.
Thank you, Justin.
I've got a good
All
one
right.
for next time too.
All right, well, let's not wait a month to do it. Let's
Agreed.
everybody stop taking vacations. Vacation.
I'm pretty open in April and May.
All right, that's going to do it for episode number 20. A nice throwback to the good old days. Sam gave us a lot of references back to some of the past. It was kind of like one of those sitcom episodes where they jump you back into the past. So I've always wanted us to do one of those. So I'm glad we got one from Sam. Hope you enjoyed learning a little bit alongside us. We'll be back in, a couple weeks, episode 21. We're not going anywhere. Year 21. And who knows? Let's take a quick poll. This is going to be a quick poll. Episode 21, will we still be at war with Iran? Yes or no? Sam.
Yes.
Matthew.
No.
Justin.
Yes.
All right, I'll say no. I'll say that the taco trade is in full effect and the war is over and peace will be restored to the Middle East and to oil prices and all of that. So we'll have to check on that. All right. Well, for that, make sure you email us, symposium574@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you all on the next episode. Bye-bye. Say goodbye, Matthew.
Bye.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Paul. Austin, we got to get a symposium email address. It's embarrassing using Gmail.
Talking since the 5th grade, and somehow we've got more to say. Beat kicks and faster rhythm. Inflation's high, the game's too steep. Stream wars rage while we lose sleep. Big tech's wild, the Fed's a mess, but let's start a party, I guess. Symposium, where tangents thrive. Old friends talking, the takes collide. Symposium, no wrong or right. Just good conversation deep into the night. Yeah, we're still talking.